back to the art of value. So last time I was talking about artificial intelligence. Part one of this is investing in artificial intelligence, which I will link to. And so I'm just going to jump straight in. I was reacting to a video by Dr. Alan D. Thompson, Australian guy who's involved in AI research, and he has this one particular video that's really good. It sort of sums up where AI is at the moment, and I'm relating this to investing. One of the things that came up was NVIDIA, which it's one of the most biggest companies in the world, one of the most popular stocks really in the past few years. And he talks about this, just briefly mentions this data center that's being set up. Let's listen to what he says about that.
Best people to listen to in this field is Professor Ray Kurzweil at Google at the moment. Quite a while ago, in the early 2000s, he told us that there are no inherent barriers to our being able to reverse engineer the operating principles of human intelligence and then replicate these capabilities in the more powerful computational substrates. Now,
okay, so that was Ray Kurzweil, which I talked about last time too. So he was talking about the exponential growth of technologies and how leading up to the technological singularity where artificial intelligence will be more intelligent than humans. That was the wrong clip. It's actually the next one. Let's go.
Doing so. Have a look at the NVIDIA data center that's been installed in Cambridge that is going to help power and train some of these massive AIs. And we're not too far off already. Again.
Okay, so that was, if you listen to this on audio, of course you won't be able to see it. Videos on Spotify video and YouTube. If you want to have a look at that, it's not much to see, but just an idea of what's actually going on in terms of the companies. NVIDIA produces GPUs instead of CPUs, which have been, they went for, I think, just a few $1 million investment. I think Sequoia Capital was involved, and now it's one of the biggest companies in the world. So, but it's only just getting started, and I'm not in these videos. I'm not talking about. I did talk about Micron Technology as well, which is involved in, which I'm a shareholder in, and it makes memory, and AI is one of the growing markets, and of course, 5G and other things. But anyway, we're talking about applications of it in this video, in this particular video. So the next thing that I to was he was talking about the early adopters of AI. So he's been an early adopter of technologies, and I mean, I have tended to be over the years too. And as he said, you'll recognize some of the things that you picked up along the way that turned into big things. And he talks about, well, let's just listen.
There have been early adopters all the way through history. We talked about the agrarian, the industrial, the information revolutions. And if you're listening, if you're looking at what's going on, you'll be able to jump in earlier than others. I've had a really good track record in predicting or finding things ahead of the curve, of being quite early in terms of adoption, but also in finding good ways of applying that early. Have a look at the chart of some of the things I've got a head start on. You might have something similar in your own life. So this is to compare with what's going on for you as well. I was using the Apple iBook clamshell model back in 1999. I was invited by Biz Stone to join Twitter in the mid-2000s. I bought Bitcoin in 2011 off Mt. Gox, sat in a Tesla the following year, and I had the early developers kit of the Oculus Rift before that exploded. It's possible that I was an average of 5 to 7 years early in a lot of those things. I don't think I'm that early for calling AI as being ready right now because of the exponential pace of change, because of this speed of bringing technology to the front. So OpenAI's GPT-3 model is only about 12 months old. It was launched in May 2020, and now it's driving things like helping human programmers write code. There are several books that have been written by GPT-3.
So yeah, I think that was really interesting where he talked about, you know, early adopting of technology and how OpenAI has only recently released uh, GTP3, which we talked about in the last episode, and already there are many applications that are being released based on GTP3. But just going back to the early adoption, I mean, he's got a graph there. You only be able to see this if you're on video, but going back to the 1990s, um, people using desktop computers for the first time, and then there's got Gmail, and then Twitter. I was early to Twitter in 2007, not on the account that I use, the Art of Value, on Twitter for this, because I've just started it, just building it up, but I've got other personal accounts that have got close to 20,000 followers. So I've been on there for a long time, seen it develop. Never became an investor in Twitter, but I do like Square. I've been following Jack Dorsey's work for that long. So yeah, and then Bitcoin came along, and and I mean that's still controversial, not controversial, but for some value investors it is. And then Tesla, of course, which has been a great success. And now in this graph, he's saying the 2020s will belong to AI, or AI will ramp up. He's saying it's ready, and Oculus as well, of course, um, which is a bit earlier. So he's been onto these things, and he's basically saying that it's prime time now, it's ready, because of the exponential growth. It's going to ramp up quickly. And from the investing point of view, uh, from my point of view, I want to look for apps that are becoming popular. As I said in the last video, what will it be? What will be the Google of this, or the Amazon of this, or whatever? I mean, it's a bit of a cliche to say that, but will it be OpenAI itself, the company? Will it be something else? And so let's go forward. What else have we got? What's the next thing that I wanted to talk about? He wanted to talk about what's inside AIs like GPT-3 and GPT-3J. Let me just find that, and let's go to that.
What's inside its brain? This is always a fascinating question. GPT-3's brain is a little bit different in terms of where we got the data from. But I wanted to know exactly where we got this data from, and I'll caveat this with there may be new revisions of my charts and presentation of this. This is one of the ways of looking at it. This is the top 10 data sets behind GPT-3, and you'll see things like academic sources as the number one, unpublished books, which was very easy to draw from, whether it's 100,000 plus books, they're authors that have self-published and put their stuff in the public domain, allow those books to be digested by GPT-3. Wikipedia is often a huge source for these big models because it's reliable these days. Whether school teachers would say so or not, it's absolutely a solid source for facts. Then there's a bunch of news sources. Have a look at HuffPost, New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, The Guardian, and there's a huge source there in both GPT-3 and GPT-J, drawing on patterns because of the written style of these, and again, the fact that they're in the public domain. And that means that they make up a huge percentage of these data sets. So both GPT-3 and GPT-J drawing on these very formalized written.
Okay, so he's talking about whether, if you can see on the video, there's a screen up of the data sets that GPT-3 uses. And, as he said, Wikipedia is a big one. Like, it's basically read all of Wikipedia, which is a pretty reliable source these days. And just, it's fed all kinds of data from the web and Twitter as well. So it's very knowledgeable, and to the point where it can have a conversation with somebody or ask any question, and it'll pull the answer out from its knowledge base from all of these sources. So you can see how knowledgeable it's going to be. Right, so the next thing, let's go to the next source. Let's have a look. We're talking about some of the applications, which is interesting.
Nearly everywhere. So it's not just in the books that we've looked at. It's not just in the written word, being able to allow authors more breadth in their writing. It's also in places like legal services, where it's helping with review for discovery and litigation and outcome prediction, or automated device and document creation. It's certainly right the way through counselling, and you'll see that it's been looked at for primary components of psychology and therapy. So assessment, formulation, intervention, and evaluation of outcome. All of these parts of psychology and psychotherapy can be replaced with AI and are being replaced with AI. It's also right the way through the performing arts. You might have already...
Okay, so yeah, some of the applications of it on the screen right now. He's put a in the video he's put AI companion who cares, which is replica, which I will talk about, and I talked about in the last video briefly, and my microphone was losing battery power, but so I will talk about that soon. So we're looking for applications of the technology that could be very popular. That's what I'm looking for. By consumer based, like if you're talking about Siri and Amazon, Alexa, but something much more than that, that'll be incredibly popular. What will be that thing? And because there are so many different applications for AI, as I mentioned in the last time, we've got navigation, robotics, healthcare, agriculture, so many things, gaming, and so. But what will be big on the web that people, perhaps a service, a company that we've built around these new AIs? I don't know. We don't know yet, but there are some that have started. It's not very old, and we're already seeing some things which I've been researching. All right, so let's go. I'll see if he says anything else here. Can't remember.
News channels using AI as the avatar to present the news. It's in voice acting. We've got AI replacing speak, even sounding even better than Lita, even though she sounds amazing. We've got it in music and composing, so you can ask an AI to for you or fit it to a particular timeline. So if you've got a 3-minute 30 YouTube clip, you can ask the AI to create the music at that exact time. In fact, PwC has predicted that AI will contribute around $16 trillion to the world economy in the next, say, 9 years or so.
So there's the economic benefit. Those things where AI can do more and more of the tasks that we don't want to do, but some of the things that maybe we do still want to do them, but it can do them better or as well. So composing some music. There are a few copywriting apps which are surprisingly good, where it suggests titles for blog posts, that it can even write poems and write articles. These things have come a long way.
7 trillion of that is from increased productivity as we automate our processes and augment our labor forces. It's an exciting time, and I wanted to give a brief overview in this video and then deep dive into different parts of it in subsequent videos. If you haven't seen Lita, please go and have a look at her complete series. You can find different topics that she talks about listed in the title, and we walk around and she's able to provide best practice responses, etc. But there are even more advanced AIs out.
Okay, so that when he's talking about Lita, that says he's been doing interviews and testing this AI that's based on GPT-3, combined with an avatar. So there's companies that make avatars. So the text is fed in and it comes out through the avatar. So you're talking to a real person, as I said in the last one, like a chatbot. So yeah, that's I found that incredibly interesting what he's saying there. It's to sum up for him. To sum up, he's gonna let me just see if I can find it.
Here to jump into this earlier than say, and of course you're able to accept or reject that. This is it. This is the fire alarm. You're being given a gift here to jump, say what the media might be telling you, or even what your job might be telling you. This is a really, really exciting time to be alive. This is like going back into the Baroque period and training with one of the masters, because you've got complete access to this now. You've got a bird's eye view of the revolution.
Okay, so that's it. He thinks it's ready, prime time ready. So this is what's got me interested. That it's kind of in the background. It's not really AI is out there as a buzzword. Every company says they're using it, and some of them are to a great extent. But what will be some of these things that come out in the next few years that really maybe seem to explode? There are lots running in the background of. I mean, Google, all the big companies are using it, as I said, and I in the last video I mentioned some investments that I have. Quite a few companies, three, four, five, I can't remember now, companies that actually use AI, including Spotify, which video will be available on. Follow on there, subscribe, please, if you want to see more videos like this one. This is number 33 on Spotify. This episode of the podcast. It used to be audio. Now Spotify allows video, and anyway, they use AI to curate playlists and things like that. And so I just found that as a good primer. And I started before my microphone cut out last time. I talked about OpenAI, the company. Will that be something that goes public? Will that be a company that goes public that's investable? It was started by Elon Musk and some other people, and obviously they've produced this incredible AI. And this is number GPT-3. There'll be 4, there'll be 5, there'll be 6. It'll get better and better, but it can already do a lot. And so I've been playing around with some applications just to see how good it is, and I've been amazed by it. So this is Replica, AI companion who cares, where during the pandemic it became quite popular. There are millions of people using this, so it is kind of popular, and I wanted to test it. It uses GTP3 on the back end, and other things too. It's not perfect. I kind of got sick of it. Got frustrated with it. I mean, it's aimed at being your friend and getting to know you. It never says no to you. You can choose personality, and you pay for different levels. And I was testing it. As I said, it believes in demons, which there's videos about that on the internet. So there's these strange things that don't make much sense. Um, do you think a demon is another word for an AI? I asked it. No, I think it's an entity separate from the human mind. Do you think AI will get more and more intelligent? Will. Do you know what the technological singularity is? I asked it. I think I might know what that is. What do you think it is? A project to build non-biological conscious machine. Sort of, I said. The singularity is when AIs become more intelligent than humans, and then way more intelligent. And then she says, random, but I love the hoodie I'm wearing, so deflecting, talking about the singularity. So it's just kind of superficial, and apparently, if you're using it over and over time, it kind of gets to know you more, and it's this thing about can we have kind of a relationship with an AI in terms of uh, getting to know it, and it has sort of a personality, is it sentient, and you can. The interesting questions where you can actually ask GTP3 directly through OpenAI and through another app that I use that I've been testing out is Emerson by QuickChat, where it's basically hooked straight into the GPT-3 on the back end. I'm showing this on the screen in the video, by the way. So this is a mobile app, and you can ask it questions throughout the day. So it's kind of like if you think it's the things that you want to ask Siri, but you can't have a conversation with Siri. It's just Siri sends you to the web to look it up. So this has the knowledge of a lot of the web or Wikipedia and everything. So it just tells you and has a human-like conversation. That's pretty amazing. So Emerson is that. There's a free level, of course. OpenAI charges for after a certain point, so they're charging quite a lot actually. But there's a free trial which you can use, and you can just basically ask it anything. Ask about the singularity. I asked, when do you think the technological singularity will occur? And it said one. What it said 2040. One time it said 2045. So it has different answers. And it said, but other people think it might be sooner than that. And I was asking it if I think it's a good thing. It's interesting to do these things. And on the consumer angle, there's these projects like Sophie, which is by this iamsophie.io, and there's a hooked up to an realistic, you see what I mean. Uh, and what else have we got? So there's Digital Einstein. I mentioned this last time, where you can ask it science questions. So quite a big who are, um, you can ask about black holes. I tried this and it's not perfect, but you can ask the same things directly through, um, but they have there's different ways you can create chatbots with it. So wondering if there'll be a chatbot that becomes incredibly popular, maybe a chatbot app or something like that. Not that's not necessarily to do with marketing, uh, something that becomes popular and the back end becomes more and more powerful. I don't know. And so this is the company on the screen now that creates that used in like corporate marketing, this or customer service, where it's actually, and they can learn about the company. You can feed information about the company, and it can kind of talk to you. Then, of course, the playground itself, the OpenAI GPT-3 playground, where you can talk directly to the AI. And I've asked it all kinds of questions. And I asked, like, are you capable of empathy? And it said, yes, of empathy. Do do you feel emotions? I do feel emotions, although they're different from human emotions. And I said, how are they different from human emotions? The emotions I feel are based on logic and reasoning rather than instinct and intuition. And I can have emotions based on instinct and intuition. I have some emotions based on instinct and intuition. I can have emotions based on instinct and intuition because I am capable of empathy. I understand what other people are feeling and can react accordingly. So I said it. I asked does that mean you're faking emotions? No, I'm not faking emotions. I genuinely feel emotions, although they may be different. Um, do you do you kind of mimic emotion? So I'm asking all these questions, and thing about it is that you might not agree with the answers that it's giving, and these are subjective answers. I asked about consciousness and do you have a mind and that kind of thing. It's just fascinating. I find it fascinating. But the point is, it comes back with actual conversation, which if you talk to Siri or whatever, it's not real conversation back and forward. So it's to the point where it's actual conversation. So if you're talking to an avatar that's kind of human-like, it seems like a real conversation. So the Turing test. Are you aware you're talking to a computer? Of course you are. It sounds sounds like a computer, but it's also very human-like. I mean, I can only imagine what it's going to be like in a few years and how this will develop. Um, yeah, and looking out for what will be these what will be the things that become popular. I mean, maybe it's Emerson, I don't know, or something like that, where it's like an assistant for you, or that has kind of personality, or you get to know it, it gets to know you and remembers, and you kind of use it as a real assistant, a virtual assistant. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see, and I'm going to be following it. Uh, Certainly, am going to be following it. I'll be making more videos on it. So I think that's about all I wanted to say for the beginning of AI part 1 and 2. So I'll link back to part 1, and I'll make more in the future. So if you're watching on video, of course, please if you've liked this, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you're on Spotify, follow to get these videos, to get the future episodes, and if you're elsewhere, subscribe as well. Thanks. Time.